Great to have you back on KCMO Talk Radio. We are joined now by Congressman Mark Alford, who he always has interesting weeks, but he had a really interesting week this week after an event that he held on Monday where I think a lot of people from outside his district came after him. We're going to find out and talk to him about the issues of the week in D.C. Hello, Congressman Alford. How are you, sir?
I am very well, Kevin. It is a beautiful day here in the swamp, and yes, we had an interesting Mondays with Mark.
So I had a buddy that was there, and he texted me several times, and he sent me some pictures of some of the people that were demonstrating outside. And I'm not going to be mean today, but it didn't look like people, A, from your district, or certainly B, not in your party. Now, not in your party is not a prerequisite. Anybody that's a Democrat in your district, you welcome to your events. And he said he stood outside for 90 minutes with a whole bunch of other people that live in your district, wanted to come in, meet you, and didn't get the chance. Was this thing hijacked by people outside your district?
Kevin, it was definitely hijacked. We have done some 90 public appearances in the 2 years. You know, I love meeting with people. I love we do coffee with a congressman on some Fridays when I'm in district. We do Mondays with Mark when I fly back to the district on Monday. I always try to make time to meet with the constituents. Sometimes we have these meetings at our office in Raymore. Sometimes we pick various coffee shops. This time we picked a great coffee shop in Belton. They have a great little downtown. It seats about maybe 40 people. Usually at these events, about 10 to maybe 15 people show up. I sit down. We have a cup of coffee. And I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, it doesn't matter. We sit down and talk about what's going on in America and folks' concerns, constituents' concerns. I have my staff there, caseworkers. If you've got a veterans issue, a Social Security issue, whatever, we try to take care of you. Well, that's what this was intended to be. And I knew a lot of people were upset, and we put these out on social media, the advertisements that we're having these, because I want people to show up. Well, pretty soon I started getting messages from different folks that this was on Reddit, it was on Instagram, on X and Facebook, of how people were organizing this group called Indivisible that actually Barack Obama started, and then the Soros-funded MoveOn.org and other groups were organizing to come try to shout me down. So I started getting the intel on this on Friday or Saturday of last week, a week ago, and I became a little bit worried. I'm like, we got to have security there. I usually don't have security. We called the Belton Police Department, and they started doing a full assessment, threat assessment. The last thing I wanted to do was tie up resources for the Belton Police Department or the Cass County Sheriff's Department. And we just kind of walked through it, and they assured me that it wasn't going to cost them anything extra to provide security. But it became real that this was going to blow up. So I had a choice to make. And I was driving to church on Sunday when I finally made the choice that I was going to go ahead with this event, even though I knew what was going to happen and people were going to try to shout over me. I made sure that we had the only microphone. We had a loudspeaker there system, and we only took questions by index card. You had to write down your question. I would call on people, read their question. But, Kevin, as soon as I started answering the question, people started shouting. They did not want to hear the answer. They just wanted to get on camera. All the TV stations were there except Fox 4. And they just wanted to get on camera, and it made national news. That was not my intent. That was their intent. And to some degree, it did work for them because the legacy media, the mainstream media, did not talk about how we answered every question, how we stayed there for an hour and a half, and how we made a case in point to right-size America.
Okay, so you know the constituents in your district, and you've been around regular folks your whole life, all right? And I think there's something to being a conservative that they don't get on the other side. They may have gotten 20 seconds of news that, hey, we did this thing and we're conscientious objectors or whatever. People don't like that anymore. They see it in their, and let me tell you what most people think when they see something like that. They think, oh, look at these freaks. And I don't mean to be mean, but they're just like, look at these freaks that are hijacking something, creating disorder when something was supposed to be orderly, and I'll use their word that they use all the time, democratic, because this is a democratic process. You're meeting with people in your district. So the reaction to this, let me tell you, since you had to go back to D.C. or whatever, everybody that I've heard from is like energized. Like your voters are energized. Like these people came and did this in our district. This will not stand. And they're telling people, and it actually works in the opposite. It energizes your base. It's great.
Well, that's good to some degree, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. And every day I'm trying to gain and retain the trust of the people who brought me here and truly serve them. You know that, Kevin. But I wasn't able to do my job.
Right, I know.
And these are so important to democracy. This is what our founding fathers, that's how they set up the House of Representatives. So we got back in the district and we listened to people. And that's why I traveled over 100,000 miles in the first 2 years to the 24 counties listening to people.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then I can't be their voice effectively in Washington.
Right. Okay, let's talk about what's going on in D.C. I want to get to my favorite thing in a little bit, the gold card. This is the greatest idea I've ever heard. We'll get to that in a moment, but I do want to ask you about your Rural Innovation Act and small business support that you're working on, because this obviously affects your district more important than necessarily, the city or a broader audience. Tell me about this initiative that you're so much behind and what it will do for folks in your district.
Well, look, one of the problems with the SBA, and now thank God we have Kelly Loeffler, who is the new administrator, former senator. The past administrator, Guzman, was worthless. She never owned a small business, didn't really know what she was doing. They tried to keep the centralized SBA here. It's about 300,000 square feet of office space, and at any given time, there's only about 4% of the people working there. But we are trying to get the SBA broken up and get people back into rural America to help entrepreneurs and future business owners start small businesses in rural America. So that's what we did with these programs that are, I won't go into great detail, but there are programs specifically set up for that are even being used improperly in that the Chinese Communist government is getting involved, and they've kind of hijacked some of these problems and stealing intelligence from it. But this rural performance report is going to force the Small Business Administration out into rural areas like Henry County, like St. Clair County, and other areas that really need a boost from small businesses. Columbia is another great example. They are booming over in Columbia. Part of that's in my district, Boone County. But they don't have anyone from the Small Business Administration coming in there and helping. And so if we can get the SBA back out into the rural area of America, it's going to really help create the fabric of America.
Okay, it's been a wild week. There's just one initiative after another, and we saw the cabinet meeting that Trump had, which was unprecedented what he did, and the access that the American people have to this president and what they hear on a daily basis from all of the people that work for and at the pleasure of the president is exceptional. I think that's his secret sauce. I think people see that. I think it gets to them. And out of nowhere, we're hearing about this. Okay, we're deporting a whole bunch of people in America. The bad people got to go. Let's bring in good people. Well, you and I have thought this for years. Let's bring in the best from around the world. Let's vet the people that are coming in and do it merit-based. Heck, Trump wants to do merit-based by dropping $5 million to come in. If you want to come be a citizen, give us $5 million. You've pretty much vetted yourself. We know you're a success, and you're going to be successful here, probably even more so, which create jobs. What I didn't understand was that he'd been talking with Apple and Google and these other CEOs, and they're like, you can't imagine the talent in India and places around the world where we can't get them to come here and work for us because they don't want to come work for a year and go back home or do whatever. And that these corporations, and he specifically mentioned Apple, may buy 10 or 20 of these things at $5 million apiece and bring people over with the offer of citizenship and do it for them, just like sports owners pay bonuses to free agents. I'd never thought of that. What do you think of this gold card program? And are there really a couple 100,000 people that already want to get in at $5 million?
I don't know that, but if they are, please come and be a part of the fabric of America. Right. And we would love to have your money. It would cut our deficit by $1 trillion is the estimate on that. Look, I know this is going to trigger the left woke mob who thinks that DEI is the solution to humanity. But we know that capitalism works. We know that people who are successful can help others be successful. And, hey, bring them to America. Let them invest in America, and let's use their money to help us dig out of this hole. that the Biden administration and the Obama administration has dug us into.
Okay, so where are we this week on the resolution, the budget that passed and that no Democrat voted for? No taxes on tips, Social Security, no tax on overtime. Are those in there? And how does a Democrat in any era vote against something like that for working people that are not rich, that it would save them on taxes? What exactly was in there? And are the Democrats just going to vote no on everything? It doesn't even matter what you bring up?
Yeah, I think they're going to vote no on everything, especially this. This House resolution that we voted on, the budget resolution, simply gets us on the dance floor. It is more of a procedural vote that now gets us into the reconciliation process with the Senate reconciliation process. Basically, when you go through that process, you don't need a supermajority of 60 to assuage a filibuster. Just a simple majority. And so now what happens is it goes to the individual committees, and the committees will start looking at the cuts that need to be made to pay, in part, for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If we don't renew that, you've been hearing about that. It was initiated in 2017. It expires next year. We've got to get it done. It would mean the largest tax increase in U.S. history. It would do away with the qualified business deduction. It would reinstitute the minimum tax for a lot of families. And it would mean an average increase of about $2,000 for each American family. So we've got to make sure we do that. And through the reconciliation process, we can make that happen, because the Democrats aren't going to renew that. They keep lying and saying, oh, this is about millionaires and billionaires. No, it's about the average small business owner in Kansas City or rural Missouri or rural Kansas who's using the 199A deduction. That is a qualified business deduction. And if they don't get that, if that's not renewed, their taxes will double.
Okay. Finally, Mark, just really quickly here at the end, the number that I saw was in this resolution, it could be a $4.6 trillion tax cut and $2 trillion in expenditures cut out of the budget. That doesn't balance. That's creating another $2.5 trillion in deficit, is it not? Or is there such job creation or something that you think the tax revenue would go up? I didn't understand why the cuts are so much less than the tax cut.
Well, are you talking about the $4.5 trillion that is for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act?
That would be tax cuts, right? And then there's going to be $2 trillion in savings coming out of the budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so is that not
the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act initially is going to cost money on the front end, and so to pay for that until those revenues are reestablished, and one of the things it's going to do, it's going to take some of the pressure off of the bond market, and the bond market really kind of sets the stage for what the Federal Reserve does, and then they will start lowering the interest rates, and that will free up spending to some degree, and that will get our economy churning again, along with energy production once again, opening the pipelines, drilling, fracking, that sort of thing, and cutting back on deregulation. So it's all kind of a formula here. So in order to pay for some of these, we are going to cut the waste, abuse, and fraud out of the government. That's what DOGE is all about. And we're also, while Medicaid was never even mentioned in this House resolution, that was another thing the Democrats lied about. They will be taking a look at that and making sure that if you're an able-bodied adult with no dependent children, that you're not on the system. Why? It's the same thing with the food stamp program. If you can work, you shouldn't, and you don't have dependent children, you should not be getting long-term assistance from the federal government.
Mark Alford, Congressman, great state of Missouri. Excellent stuff. Can't thank you enough for all you do for us here at KCMO Talk Radio. And that's pretty sad if Fox 4 didn't come to your event. It was their loss, not yours.
Well,
I can promise you that.
I didn't mean to. I'm not slamming them. I know they had other things to do. Hey, can I tell you one quick Trump story?
Please.
All right. So I got to go to the Oval Office for the very first time. I guess it was yesterday. These days kind of blend together. But anyway, we went. A bunch of us sophomores went over there. Trump went, and they gave. They opened up the White House tours again, and the Secret Service gave us this really detailed tour. and we were supposed to meet the president in the dining room, and he was going to come meet us all. And at the last minute, they said, no, the president wants you guys to come to the Oval Office. So we line up, we go to the Oval Office. I'm last in line. He greets everyone, takes a picture with us at the Resolute desk. And so you know what a challenge coin is, right? Have you seen those? So I have a challenge coin, and I gave it to the president. And he says, Mark, I have something for you. And he gave me his challenge coin, which is the size of a rodeo belt buckle. It is. And he said, now, Mark, who got the better deal? I said, well, certainly I did, Mr. President.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Moment.
That's so great. Keep up the great work, Mark.
Thanks to everyone listening out there who helped me get here. Thank you so much. I will never forget you, and I will every day try to do my best for all 772,047 of you.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time as always.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, he is Congressman Mark Alford, and that is just terrific. What a great story about the Oval Office with Donald J. Trump. Uncanceled continues on KCMO Talk Radio.